this is where blogging isn't always just about getting more eyes on your topic. It's also about that linking strategy so that we're assigning more value to those pages that we want to sell things from.
Hi, I'm Tori Mystic, and you're listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast, the only show dedicated to supporting women in all areas of the pet industry. We're still at the beginning of July, but we have already kicked off Q3. That's right, the third quarter of the year here at Wear, Wag, Repeat is all about blogging and SEO. I'm focusing the next 3 months on these because they are proven evergreen tactics to grow your pet business online. While social media is one way to market your pet business, in my opinion, and I've been in the digital marketing game for over 15 years, it's better in the long run to focus on growing what you own, like your email list and your website traffic. Email and blogging also have a much higher conversion rate than social media. So if you're in this for the long haul, like I am, please don't put all your eggs in one borrowed basket, aka social media. To learn more about blogging and SEO, I have experts lined up for the next 3 months. They're going to be appearing here on the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast and also in Wear, Wag, Repeat Society, my membership to help you grow your pet business online. To get us started, today I am sharing an interview with Pamela Keniston. You may have seen her speaking earlier this year at the Pet Summit, the Pin Growth Summit, or where I recently saw her on a webinar with Kara Conway Love. And now I'm excited to bring her expertise to Wear, Wag, Repeat. In this conversation, we discuss blogging for your pet business, the elements that every blog post needs to make it search-friendly and user-friendly, how to determine the keywords your site ranks for already, and so much more. Towards the end of the episode, we provide action steps that you can take to start filling up your blogging content calendar for all of Q3. If you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure about what to blog about for your pet business, you won't want to miss that. Pamela also has a really great analogy that I think I'm going to be using from now on about a file cabinet. It goes something like this. Imagine the file cabinet as the product or service page that you want people to visit on your website and buy from. All of the drawers in the cabinet are your pillar blog posts that cover everything about your product's topic. Then, all the files in those drawers are these supporting blog posts that you will write, linking back to that main pillar post, aka the big file drawer that directs people to the product page. I absolutely love this analogy, and I thought it made it really clear on how to structure your blog post strategically to drive sales. Now, if I explain that kind of confusingly, please stick around and listen to the episode and see how Pamela describes it. I also think that I say the word drawer kind of strangely, so maybe that affected how I explained this concept, but I promise to you it is going to transform how you think about blogging for your pet business. So this summer, we are not going to blog aimlessly and all willy-nilly. We are going to focus on a strategy. And Pamela outlines it all in this interview. Let's get into it. Pamela Keniston is the founder and CEO of Big Paws Marketing, an award-winning digital marketing agency serving the pet industry. Pamela and her team specialize in content marketing, including blogging and SEO web content, a topic Pamela spoke in depth about at the 2024 Pet Summit at Global Pet Expo. Pamela lives in South Carolina with her husband and their dog, Zuzu. Hi, Pamela.
Hi, Tori. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I feel like been swimming or running in like concentric circles near each other, but
Yes.
this is our first time really talking face to face, so I'm really excited.
Same. Yeah, I've been following your podcast for ages, and I think it's like really become sort of this industry icon because you just have such a warmth and enthusiasm about how you go about things. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. It's not every day someone uses icon in the same sentence as me, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
It's true. It's true.
Thank you. Well, you're an icon in SEO and blogging topic, which is what we're here to discuss today and get some advice on. I've been a pet blogger for 10 years now, but blogging as a blogger is a little bit different than blogging as a business, I think.
Yeah.
And so you have some good insight on that. I guess let's just dive into it. And do you think that every pet business should have a blog?
I would say nearly every pet business. So that's the short answer. If you are an e-com business, 100,000%, yes, you should be blogging. If you have a small pet sitting business, blogging may not be the most effective channel for you. If you have a small retail local business, though, it still could be an effective channel for you because you have competition. And we're going to talk a little bit more later about money pages and what that means. So, any time where you're selling particularly products, absolutely. And the short answer again is sometimes if you're service based, depending on your competitive status.
Right. So a blog, if you have a business like any of the ones that you just mentioned, a blog is like a section of your website where you're posting consistent articles, I guess we could call them blog posts. What are some things that or I guess before I get to like what things we should have in the blog post, how do people figure out what they should blog about?
That's a really good question. So this is where we kind of go back to our money pages again too, and we start there and then do our keyword research. So what does that mean? If you're an e-com business, you probably have a handful of products that are really your flagship products. Right. And so we want to make sure that we have content that's webbed into those product pages. So take, for example, let's say you are a supplement company and you sell hip and joint supplements for dogs, right? So you're going to start with those kinds of keywords and you're going to create a pillar post. So this pillar post will have everything that somebody needs to know about hip and joint supplements. We're going to do our keyword research. I use tools like SEMrush. There sometimes those subscriptions can be a little bit hefty, but if you want to go kind of the petpreneur route, you can use Ubersuggest. It's like $10 a month. Do your keyword research to see if there's volume supporting that topic. And of course, we know with hip and joint supplements, there's a huge volume, huge search capacity for that every month. So you would start there with your pillar page, and then you would want to create subtopics within that pillar page. And then from those subtopics, you can actually branch out and create separate blog posts from those subtopics. So I kind of think of it as like a filing system, like your product page is like your giant file cabinet, right? And then within that, you have these categories and pillar pages. These are like your drawers. And then within that, you have these folders, right? Or these different little files.
This is such a good analogy. I love analogies like this.
Yes.
So that makes it really clear.
Yeah, so that's kind of how you start to decide what you're going to write about. We don't want to just write about any topic just because, okay, well, we're in the pet world, so let's write about something that has to do with pets. No, it needs to serve your business. So start there, think about your products or your services that are your flagship products or services.
Right. So going along the line of the supplement company, if you make a hip and joint supplement and you write this pillar blog post about everything there is to know about this hip and joint supplement, one of those subtopics or subcategories might be, how early should I be giving my dog hip and joint supplements?
Exactly.
Are hip and joint supplements good for large breed dogs? These could be the different kind of other blog posts that you have that support that main one.
Exactly. How to tell when your dog is ready for a hip and joint supplement. What are the signs that your dog is experiencing? So, be putting yourself in the shoes of your reader, how they found you there. Chances are if they're looking for a hip and joint supplement, probably their dog is older, or they may even have just got a dog. Maybe they have a puppy and they're just really like a new pet parent. They're really not sure what supplements to put them on. And so they're researching. So just try to be empathetic with that pet parent, and think about what kind of topics would be of interest to them. And then we're going to marry those with keyword research. so that we know that there's an actual, keywords or search volume that will support our topics within that post.
Right. Okay. So once we have figured out sort of the broader topics and the more specific topics, and we start writing some blog posts, now, like, what needs to be in these blog posts? What are some important elements to include? Because, um, there's some kind of unexpected things that you do need to look out for that someone just getting started doesn't always know about.
Yes, absolutely. So in my 2024 Pet Summit talk, I talked about 11 of these, but we'll kind of go through just a handful of them that are really critical. Of course, you're going to have your outline, right? So you've started with your keyword, you've outlined these subtopics into these H2 headers, you've plugged in your text content, and then we want to actually make the article appealing visually. Right. And we also want to make it accessible. So these little things, these little tiny SEO steps that we need to take actually add up to, something that's a lot larger that's going to help you to rank. So what are those? One is supporting images. We don't want our readers to look at a wall of text, right? We want them to be engaged with the content, and preferably these are images that you've taken yourself. They're high quality. You're not using stock footage. If you need to use stock footage, it's not the end of the world, but try to make it at least a little bit stylized towards your brand, of
Yeah.
course.
I think even just a cell phone snapshot,
Yeah.
as long as it's original and yours and it has your
Yep.
pets or your product, that's always better than
Yes.
than a beautiful stock photo, I think.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Yep. And so within those images too, you'll notice that there's an option to add alt text. So this is primarily for accessibility, but it's also for SEO. So I have a friend who's legally blind, and she relies on these alt text tags to describe the images to her. So be thinking about it that way. If you have a friend that's visually impaired, how are they going to know what this image is about? This is where you're going to enter your alt text, and preferably you're going to include your keyword, but we don't want to be stuffing it. So don't force it. If it makes sense within the context, use that keyword, but otherwise don't worry about it.
Right, like a human who's describing the image.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And so those are a couple of things that we want to add. If you have any video content, YouTube or even TikToks that are applicable to that particular topic, you can include those, embed them in the article. Another thing that I see even large brands forget is to have a really clear call to action at the end of your blog post, and even within the blog post, right? Because sometimes this happens now, like somebody will search for a keyword and they'll get dropped in the middle of your article. They may not be reading it from top to bottom. So we want to make sure that we're providing those calls to action and be really clear about it and very concise. One of the examples I used in my presentation was a very large supplement company, a global supplement company. And the article was about scary dog breeds, but it really didn't have anything to do with supplements. And so, like, how could we tie that in? Like, why would somebody be going to a supplement company for advice on dog breeds that really aren't that scary? Well, they're probably looking to adopt, right? And things like, pit bulls, Rottweilers, they have these reputations for being scary, but it's not always true. They're often really gentle giants. And
Right.
so they're looking for that advice. But what do we also know about dogs that are often perceived as aggressive? They have anxiety. That's often at the core of their aggression. So what a great opportunity to educate this audience that your supplement, your anxiety supplement, can help solve this problem. Instead of doing that, though, they ended up having like 4 CTAs at the bottom, like check out all of our supplements, leave us some feedback, follow us on Instagram. It's too much for the reader. Be really concise about what you want them to do and how that article is helping them solve a problem.
Yeah, I just had a similar experience, kind of similar on social media, where I was going through my Instagram stories and I live in Pennsylvania. So somehow I got delivered an ad in my stories from the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and it was a dog, and it was like sniff up what's happening on the turnpike or something like that. And there was a link I clicked on, and I'm like, "Oh, are there some like dog-friendly turnpike rest stops that I don't know about? Is there like a new like dog area or something?" And it just went to their homepage.
Oh no. Oh
So
no. Yeah,
it
exactly.
didn't
You're
go
lost.
anywhere. It wasn't useful, and it was an opportunity. I mean, there's not a lot of positive feelings I have about the turnpike. So this was an opportunity for me to be like, "Oh, wow, they're doing things." And instead I was like, "Oh, a shot and a miss."
Yeah, you lost me. You lost me. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that happens so frequently. So, even if you're a small brand, you can get ahead on some of these larger brands by just these little hacks. And then also making sure that your meta description is really powerful. It's motivating and it includes your keywords. So your meta description is what appears that little blurb when you go to a Google search. It's that little blurb that appears below the article that tells the user what the article is about. And often Google will pull whatever the heck it wants, unfortunately. But if we have one that's really compelling and it's converting well and it's tied well to our keyword research, then we know that you have a better chance of getting your specific meta description featured.
Okay. I didn't realize that even if you set it, they'll still pull whatever.
They can because it depends on the search topic, right? So
Oh,
you know,
because
we
your meta
always
description might not fit what someone searched for.
exactly. So even though you may be saying, okay, I'm trying to target the users with these keywords, that's not necessarily always what happens. Google may be serving it to somebody else who searched for something slightly different that maybe you mentioned in your article. And so just going to pull out, whatever they want. But ideally, if we're matching up those keyword searches correctly, with our users, then Google's going to pull the meta description and that's going to convert.
Right. Well, and that's all the more reason to have these like little separate blog posts that are really specific,
Exactly.
because then there's not going to be as much confusion in Google of what this blog post is about.
Exactly. Now, another really important thing I don't want to overlook to include in your blog posts is linking back to those money pages. So we talked about that our structure being kind of like a file cabinet. So if a file is loose in the office, we don't know where it goes, right? Like what are we tying this to? What topic, what product? So we always want to make sure that we're linking back in the proper order. So it could go even to category pages or to specific product pages. So within our blog post, if you have that pillar post, right, it's really comprehensive. It covers everything about hip and joints, hip and joint issues for dogs. We're going to link back to our product pages, or our product page for that product. And then from there, when we're breaking out into those smaller articles off of our pillar page, we're going to also link back to the pillar page and give that page more authority. So this is where blogging isn't always just about getting more eyes on your topic. It's also about that linking strategy so that we're assigning more value to those pages that we want to sell things from.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And again, with the files and the cabinet, if you've got a loose file, that could be lost revenue there. You're not keeping track of what's in
Right?
it, like no one knows who's in charge of it. So it is important to keep it all organized.
Exactly.
So once you are doing all these things and you're thinking about your keywords and you've got your pillar and your subtopics, how long does it usually take to rank on Google or I guess, another search engine? Because I think a lot of us have gotten a little bit accustomed to, social media. You get all your hits like immediately, pretty much. But with blogging, it's really different. So, what is the timeline, that people should expect to see some traction happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the standard SEO answer is it depends.
Well, that's not very
Because
helpful.
it's not, but it's true. And I'll give you some examples. And so we're also in a very different world today than we were a year ago. So as you know, last fall we had the helpful content update, which was not so helpful, even from just friends and family that are talking about how they're using Google. The results, they're just not great. So the time to rank now is different than it was even just a few months ago or a few years ago. However, that primarily hit a lot of bloggers. We saw even a lot of like small, mid-sized bloggers lose 90% of their traffic. But the good news is we're not seeing those same drops in e-com businesses. So for example, we started with a new client in February, and by, I guess it was March or April, we sent out a blog, we published a blog post for them. We were doing a few a month. But this particular blog post started ranking within the month, which is a very short period of time. It was a very competitive keyword. We're actually shocked that it ranked so quickly for that keyword. And of course, the client was thrilled, but that's not necessarily typical. It can be as soon as a couple of days. Like if you're a really established site, if you've been producing content for a long time, if you've had a name in the space, you've got a lot of backlinks, you're doing a lot of things right with SEO, it could be within a matter of days. More than likely, though, if you're a small business, even if you're an e-com business, it's going to, and you're just starting, you're going to be looking at 6 months or longer.
Yes.
SEO is a long game. We're not looking at quick wins here. But the good news is that traffic tends to be quality traffic. It's not like when you do like a Facebook ad for like a piece of content or something, and you don't really know if the people that are clicking on it are actually finding value in it, because you can do all the targeting in the world, but when they're not specifically searching for it, then you don't know if they're your actual audience.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. With SEO, I hadn't thought about it that way, but people are searching you out
Right.
versus you going and hunting them down with an
Exactly. Yeah,
ad.
right. And that's why, that term inbound marketing started so many years ago, because um, you know, it was so much better. It just seemed like such a much better system than cold calling, because we have those really targeted leads.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do want to ask, you've talked a lot about ranking. How do you know? How do you find out? Where do you look to see if your posts are ranking for certain keywords?
The easiest and best free tool is just to connect your website to Google Search Console. And so that's going to tell you exactly how Google is perceiving your website, how searchers are finding you. You can narrow it down by the keywords that they're using to find you. And that can be really telling, because you might be trying for a certain keyword and you're ranking for something else that you should be creating content for. You might also be ranking for something that you do not want to be ranking for. And so that can help you adjust your content. It will tell you your click-through rate, like how many times people are seeing you in their search results. And then out of that, what percentage of people are clicking through to your website. And how you're ranking for, I think we just talked about specific keywords. So how you're
Yeah.
ranking for specific keywords.
Right. And so that's separate from Google Analytics, but it's also from Google and it's free. So you can install it. You just have to kind of give them permission to look at your site.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. So now, what if someone feels like they don't really have time to maintain a blog? Because it does sound like there's quite a few steps involved.
Yes. Yes. And I've had clients that say, well, can you just train me how to do it? And then, after a couple of lessons, they say, you know what, just do it, please. Because especially if you're a small business, it can be very time consuming. However, if you're good at writing, if you love writing, then absolutely do it yourself. But there are, some processes that we can use to speed things up and to coach you along with that. Um, in Big Paws Marketing, we do it as a done for you service. So that includes everything from the keyword research to including all the images, the video, if you have it, and everything that you need to optimize to be able to rank, all of the strategy, the tracking, all of that stuff. Increasingly, people are using AI, and I don't advise on going that route solely in relying on AI. In fact, I had a colleague who he left his marketing agency and went all into AI. And he built this tool where you can just plug in your website and it will spit out all these tags that are supposedly relating to your website. And then you choose, okay, yeah, that's relevant, that's not relevant. And then it will create as many blog posts as you want. And I thought, like, wow, that's actually kind of a cool tool if it works, right? So I tried that with a client in the pet space, and it spit out this article that said how to litter box train your dog and cat, complete with an image of a weightlifter. So like, it's just, tools like that, the concept is good, but we're not quite there with AI, and it can never tell relatable stories, which is what we want as pet parents.
Yeah. So do you think that there's any way to use AI to save you some time in your blogging and SEO efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. And we use it every day too. It's good for inspiration if you're just looking for, inspiration topics. It's good to help you refine your content. Even the best writers get writer's block. And so I've used it just to say, hey, here's a paragraph. Help me refine it. Help this flow better, help it sound better. If you get stuck. So it can be very helpful in situations like that.
Yeah, I think I view it as kind of like an assistant, not an equal to me. So like
Exactly.
I couldn't ask it to do my work for me, but anything I would like ask a part-time intern or something to do, I
Right.
feel like I could ask AI to do.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's a good analogy too.
Yeah. So if someone is, thinking about starting a blog, but they're a little overwhelmed, they know they have to do it. It's been on their to-do list. What is like the first thing they should do, I guess, to get started? Or, a lot of people that I talk to, they maybe started and then got sidetracked and don't know how to get back into it. So, what's the best way to just kind of get back in or get into blogging for the first time?
Yeah. So create a roadmap. So start with your many pages, and then do your keyword research, map out all of your topics. So your pillar pages that relate to your money pages, and then all of your supporting content. So, breaking down those pillar pages into other smaller articles and create that roadmap. So to hold yourself accountable, because I think that's a lot of the challenge that business owners have is in just sitting down and thinking about topics, and that in itself can be overwhelming. And that is a huge part of the process. So even if you can do that, like take your first, let's say 2 money pages and map out what your keywords are for your blog post and outline those two blog posts, just two of them. So within those two blog posts, you're going to have those subcategories, which are now the meat for smaller articles. So really, you've given yourself a roadmap for probably at least 10 blog posts, right? So now next time you go to sit down and you're going to do a blog post, you don't have to think about those topics. You don't have to think, oh, what am I going to write about? It's already there for you.
So this could really take someone through all of third quarter is just doing what you just explained.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, try to just make a plan for that every quarter or every month, depending on your schedule. But it is so important. And that minute when you start to rank on Google and you're like, I'm in the top 10 or I'm in the top 5, even if you've never been blogging before, and now you're like, I'm ranking it all, like I'm in the top 50. Like it's such a good feeling. And then when you start to see that traffic rolling in and you start to see those money pages converting a little bit better and getting more traffic, then you're going to have that motivation to keep going.
So do you see our blog posts and having a blog on your website, does it really convert customers to sales?
That's a good question, and that can be one that's difficult to track, right? Because when somebody lands
Yeah.
on a money page, right, a product page, we can see when they convert. And we can with certain software kind of see the journey if somebody lands on a blog post. But remember, the intent, the search intent for most blog posts is not going to be commercial. It's going to be informational. So that's where they're starting. This is really like top of the funnel. And that's why it's so important to another element we didn't discuss was making sure that you have captures on your website, on your blog post.
The email
So
capturing people's email addresses.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. So then you can be able to nurture those leads. You're going to be able to nurture those leads when they land on your blog post, and then you can better see that journey, that customer journey where they go to conversion. So long and short of it is, yes, they do convert, but in a roundabout way. And it is, again, a long game. And part of the strategy isn't just to make sure that that person who lands on the blog post buys the product immediately, because they're probably not ready to do that, but also to show search engines that priority is your money page because we're linking back to that page.
Right. And it also builds credibility if you're providing valuable information for
Yes.
free online.
Yes.
It can really position you as an expert so that people trust you and your brand.
Exactly. And side note, a lot of the email marketing that we do involves just sharing blog posts. And those tend to convert, depending on the niche, but those often convert to sales better than direct sales emails. Because like you were just saying, we're giving them something of value. We're not just saying, hey, buy our product. We're saying, here's all kinds of information. And then they're on the site, they start poking around and they actually convert to sales.
Yes. Yeah. Now that's a strategy that I like, email and blogging all together.
Yes,
That really kind of ties it all in a nice bow.
it does.
Well, Pamela, this has been such a great conversation, and you've provided so many actionable tips for people. So I want everyone who's listening to take some time, make some time to figure out what your pillar posts are, figure out what your money pages are if you don't know what they are, and start blogging about topics that are relevant to all of that, and build those internal links and all of that great stuff.
Yes, great advice.
Well, thank you for the great advice. So where can people go to learn more about you and what you do at Big Paws Marketing?
Y'all can go to bigpawsmarketing.com. We're Big Paws Marketing everywhere on all the platforms. And in fact, if you go to our website right now, we have a pop-up that's strategic and profitable blogging for pet businesses. It's a free download. It includes all the things that we talked about here today, plus a little bit more. And it's a great way to, get started in increasing your traffic and your sales.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. And I'm so glad that we finally got a chance to sit down and talk. And I know my audience is really going to enjoy this interview. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you for having me, Tori.
Some of the best conversations happen after the episode. Send me a note on Instagram at WearWagRepeat, or find even more women petpreneurs to connect with in our private Facebook group called Wear, Wag, Repeat Labs. If you want to dig into more episodes, resources to grow your business, or find a link to something we discussed, it is all right there for you at wearwagrepeat.com. I'll see you back here next Wednesday for a fresh conversation.